your hustle. I appreciate your hustle because that's what I had to do. It's been 25 years for me, man. I started locker room at MAL. I work in weekends, with a vision. And so that's how it starts. And J.J. Green, who's at TOP, that was my dog, man. And we sit in there for hours, man. Cutting tape, putting sound behind it, doing that sound, locker room, all that stuff. You got to have a concept. You have a great concept. You guys are doing it, man. And it's an honor for me to just be, a small rock, man, in your mountain. Because this is what it's all about. Not sit back waiting on somebody to hire you. Build your industry. You guys are building your car. No different than Henry Ford. You're building it. And then you got to roll it. So it's an honor for me to be a part of it, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. That's very kind words. Once again, Mr. Doc Walker blessed us with his presence and now.
Welcome to Sports on the Hill podcast. Hashtag DC Sports Without the Politics with Carol and Robbie on True Radio Network. Thank you, gentlemen.
Not just a catchphrase, it's not just a motto. It's what we do.
Less than 45 seconds. I can't see it the way I got it set up right now. I got a lot going on trying to figure this all out on the fly. All right, it's over now. Now I gotta switch.
Hold on. Wait until we start the, you can welcome them and stuff like that, but we're gonna start the audio podcast at some time, so hold on.
What's going on, people? CP3, live from the lab, trying to figure some things out, doing some new things. And stay tuned. Robbie G, you see already, is on the screen. We working to get some things going on. I'm also streaming, about to start streaming live on IG once I get this rectified over on this screen. And as always, episode 306 coming to you live, bringing you the most up-to-date sports content on the DC sports scene. We got a live look in on the Brooklyn and Philly game. I just glanced at it. Brooklyn has a pretty good lead right now. I've been noticing on the playoffs so far. There's been some upsets. I know I'm not really familiar with the seedings, but I know I saw Golden State take a loss the other day. I wasn't expecting to see, but I didn't know the Kings were that good the way they played. So it was definitely the NBA playoff experience has definitely changed since the last time I started watching. Robbie, how things going over there with you? I'm about to get things started over here.
I'm gonna give me 10 seconds. I'm gonna start our live right now. We'll start our audio podcast.
I just started the Instagram live feed for the first time going live on the show on a Monday night, trying some new things, expanding a new market, and doing some things that you guys don't even know about this about the time. But as you see, if
recording in progress.
My feed without the Zoom feed in the background. The lab is in transition. I know y'all not used to seeing plants and stuff in my background, but yeah, stay tuned. The lab is in transition, renovation, some new things coming, so it's gonna be a whole new look once I get everything set up. So be on the lookout. I told you there's gonna be a lot of new things happening this year, so stay tuned.
I clicked to go live.
Let me guess, you're having technical difficulties. decided the camera angles are different on Instagram, so I'm gonna figure that out later on. I tried it, didn't succeed. You always gonna try some new stuff.
I've never had to do this before. They just put out about whole thing.
Alright, let me know if you want to restart it then. Because I can do that. Now that I know I can't do what I want to do.
Yeah, if you want to try to restart it, you have to throw it back. So, let's try it. Do it now, right? Go for it. Yeah, Jam, thank you for the resub. We're trying to get the Facebook Live going, and of course it's not working. Let me try one other idea, Carol. I usually share from the page, but let's just see if I just go live from my page instead of like the Sports on DHB page, if it works. And if not, I'll just share it from there to the page or whatever.
You know me. You know me. That's what we got to do.
Exactly. Let me try that real fast. And then if not, just go off of Carol's Facebook page. And your Facebook's working fine, right?
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned, we got the NBA playoffs going on. Let me see what the score is right now. Give you an update. The Nationals are off tonight. They have a 2-game set against the Orioles coming up, but we'll talk about that in Nats Talk. Got the Brooklyn. Now they're down to Philly 61-56 with 6:40 left in the third. Then, as I mentioned earlier, the Golden State Warriors, they have the game 2 versus the Kings starting at 10 o'clock. And it's only 2 games tonight, so it'll be more than that.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. And I think there's only 3 hockey games. Is that right? Maybe
Yeah, I
there's
scored one game.
I
The
think that the
Panthers
fourth
and
one
the
starts later. That's right.
the Panthers and the Brewers. Bruins.
Yeah, that looked like it was gonna be a good matchup.
Yeah, the 2 games you got Carolina and the Islanders. Carolina's up 2-1 with 18:25 left in the third, and Boston's up 2-1 over Florida with 6:10 left in the second. And then you have Minnesota versus Dallas starting at 9:30, and then you have the Kings versus Edmonton starting at 10.
Interesting.
So you got a lot of playoffs going on here.
Yeah, it's really frustrating that Zoom won't do it.
Did you reboot?
I rebooted the. Let me try one other thing. I'm gonna try to quit out of. Let me leave the meeting. And assign you as the host and leave.
Recording stopped.
I'm gonna stop the recording. I'm gonna quit out of it. I'm gonna quickly try to rejoin.
Try something myself on my Twitter page and see.
Let me remake myself. Can you do me a favor and click on and make host the Sports OTHP one, the one that's got the logo on it? You see that in the participants? Just right click on it and make them a host. I had to give you the host so I could leave. I was trying to see if that would fix it.
So I need to take off the co-host.
No, just click on Robbie Sports OTHP co-host and click on it and click more and then make it the host. You'll still stay a co-host, but it'll become the main host.
Y'all getting a real behind the scenes look at what goes on.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's see. 'Cause I can't record.
Recording in progress.
Testing that, and then let me see if we can go live on Facebook now.
And I'm trying to see if I can try something new on Twitter. They have the audio space or whatever. I'm gonna see if I can.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
I'm gonna see if I can do the audio on there while we're doing the show live here. So we're trying new things, new season 8. And pardon that I didn't get the new banner done. It's been last week was a crazy week, so I'm gonna try to get it done this week with the new opening video. What else? So like I said, we trying new things, doing new things, and bringing you the best content. You still can't get on?
Yeah, no, I think there's something wrong with Zoom, to be totally honest. So, but you've been on this whole time on the Facebook, right?
Yeah, I've been on the whole time streaming on. I just haven't shared it
We could just
yet.
rip your audio from your thing, and then we could always just start it, a minute in or whatever.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I'm still up and running. I don't know.
How far are you into it right now?
Give me a second. I've been going for over 12 minutes.
Okay.
So yeah, we good to go on that.
All right, we'll just grab your audio for today. We'll share it to the page from yours, and we'll just know right now we're at 12 minutes, so we'll just start at 13 minutes. So why don't you do your opening real fast? I'm going to. Oh wait, I have an idea.
I mean, we already did the opening. We good to go. We might as well just go ahead and rock and roll.
Okay.
Recording stopped.
All right, record on this video, but this will just be the beginning of the audio podcast. I can just record it on here. I forgot I could do that.
Yeah.
So,
Recording in progress.
welcome everybody to episode 306 of Sports on the Hill podcast. I'm joined with Carol. We're trying a bunch of different stuff on a bunch of different streaming platforms. Some things are working, some things are not working. But Carol, how are you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Just another day in the life, transition, big things changing, big things happening. Just at least we got sports to take your brain off of all the crazy stuff that goes on.
For sure. I apologize to anybody that was part of the early show, but we seem to get it all together now, and we'll
kind of sort of on my end now. I'm trying to get my stuff together with the new overlay with my new feed. So give me a second. But y'all go ahead, rock and roll. If you're looking at my feed, just bear with me. Trying to get everything together.
Fine. Well, I'll introduce our special guest. We're starting off this week with hockey talk. We're going to then move into defenders talk after that. And then we're going to talk a little bit of nationals, and we'll end with some NBA talk as well. So a lot of different guests coming on in our first segment here. We're joined by the Blue Liner on point, Gil, and Cheryl-Ann Forrester, C4. Gil, how are you doing tonight?
Not too bad, all things considered. Rather be watching the red, white, and blue take the ice, but, it is what it is. Not too bad, I suppose. But, doing all right.
For sure. I appreciate you guys for bearing with us through all of that. C4, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good, doing well. I was telling the other day on the Triple P podcast, there may not be Capitals hockey to enjoy right now, but there is still hockey to enjoy. And if it's on, I'm going to enjoy it. And actually, there are two teams that I'm rooting for. My first team is always the Caps, but the first team I ever cheered for was the Bruins from family history, so I'll be cheering for them. And then my dark horse team, the Kraken, I'm really hoping they put up a good fight this year. So I'm going to enjoy this playoff season.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about the playoffs at the very end of this segment. It's going to be interesting that we have the last two teams in, so to speak, are both in it, with Vegas doing pretty well out there in the West, and the Kraken in it as well. So I think that's interesting that they're both in it, where teams that are sort of the standard of the playoffs, the Caps and the Penguins, are both out of it. When we last left off, I was pretty upset that we won a game that I thought we didn't need and opened the door for the Penguins to potentially make the playoffs. I did mention at one point, and I'm super happy that friends pointed out to me that I mentioned at this point in the clip of last week's show, and I said, they could choke. Chicago could show up for a game. You never know, even though the odds are against them. They played the night before. They come in late. They're tired. The other team is ready for them. They've got everything on the line. You've got nothing on the line, but also pressure. And sure enough,
you've got Gil all choked up with that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sure enough, they did choke, and Chicago showed up for a game, and I'm so pleased because it gave the Islanders new life, so that win didn't matter. On the flip side, I'm kind of happy that we lost the last game. We'll talk about it a little bit, but I was able to jump below a bunch of different teams. Today, the Wizards were in a coin toss flip for one of the spots in the playoffs, and they lost the flip, so they actually don't have as good of a spot in it. So it's important to tank correctly, my friends. So I'm happy to say that even though it was fan appreciation night and they've got a big lead, I was happy to see that we were able to tank it away and lose it in the end, and solidify that better position potentially. We don't know where the ping-pongs will lie, but giving us the best possible odds for it that we could have had. So interesting week in Caps fandom. Some just news and notes to start. We've cleaned house on the coaching front. We got rid of the head coach, or we said that we're not inviting him back, whatever you want to call that. We've also gotten rid of our power play coach, who is somebody that we have not liked for a long time, in Blaine Forsyth. So that one may be slightly more surprising, but not really. I think that he's needed to go for even longer. And then Trotz's assistant coach also went. One thing that was interesting, though, is we kept the goalie coach, the video coach, and a couple of other coaches. Gil, do you think we should have cleaned complete house, or are you okay with having some holdovers?
I don't think the video coaches were to blame for any of this, so I like them staying. I like the moves for the most part. I think the goalie coach, Scott Murray, should have gone right along with them. I would have loved to have seen that. That would have been the cherry on top. But yeah, all in all, this was definitely a step in the right direction. Doesn't matter who you believe. They asked to leave. They were asked not to come back. Doesn't matter at this point. The fact is that it's pretty much going to be an all new bench starting next year. Now, looks like Scott Allen, who was in charge of the forwards and mainly the penalty kill, will be staying. So he's the only holdover. And I don't know for sure, but he may also be in consideration for the head coaching job. I don't have any confirmation on that. That's just kind of a wild guess on my part, admittedly. But he will, in one way or another, he will be back next year behind the bench, which I think is a good thing because, as C4 and I said on our most recent episode of the Triple P, if anything was a success this season, it was the penalty kill.
Yep.
Yeah,
for sure.
I definitely agree with that assessment. So I'm trying to switch to share the
But he may also be in consideration.
All right. I don't know how to make that not happen. All right. Sorry, I was trying to share it to the page while we were doing the show, but for some reason I can't do that without audio. Anyway, I agree with your assessment. I definitely would have wanted the goalie coach to go as well. C4, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Same as you guys. I think the goalie coach did need to go. I think, and I'm not, but I was extremely happy to see Forsyth gone. I'm glad Scott Allen's going to be sticking around. I'm not sure he's head coach ready. I think they might be grooming him to be head coach in a few years, but I don't think he's ready for next year. But and the video coaches, I don't know too much about what they do, so I don't have any feeling one way or the other on them. But I was really happy to see Forsyth finally get the boot. So now we can start really making those systematic changes that we've been talking about all year that need to be made.
Yeah, I agree. Carol, what are some of your thoughts on the coaching switches?
Well, if you go back, I was never really sold on Laviolette in the first place. I tried to give it a chance to see what he can do. You saw some glimpses of what the team can do, but ultimately it just came down that I don't think that he was the right fit, especially with the team, being older and trying to develop younger players. I've never seen him as a developmental coach. I've seen him as a coach that could take a group that, wasn't excelling, performing to their, best abilities and, fine tuning it and honing it. But I've never seen him as a coach that could develop talent and take it to that next level. Like, I hate to say it, like my man Barry Trotz. I'm still sticking with, I feel like that was a bad move, not re-signing him. And unfortunately now, 2 coaches later, I feel like that solidified my point that they should have swallowed. I think that's the worst move that the GM has made in his time here is not re-signing Trotz. And looking at what he's done since he's been here, really can't be mad. But I think that really set this team back, because I feel like they could have went back to back with that. Saying that, going forward, I don't know who would. I'm not a strong NHL hockey coaching guy, so I was scrolling and I saw some folks mentioning Jeff Halpern could be a good possible coach for this team. I know he was an ex-player. I was reading some of his bio and some of the things that he's accomplished, being an assistant. So I'll talk to you guys who, definitely know more about the coaching ranks. What would you think about that fit and him coming here with the success he's had elsewhere?
Well, Gil, I'll let you talk about Jeff Halpern. I mean, they're actually, it's funny because 2 of the people that a lot of people are talking about are currently playing in the playoffs right now as assistant coaches. So it'll be interesting to see who they end up going with there. But Gil, Jeff Halpern, I believe, is an assistant coach right now, right, for Tampa Bay.
Yep.
That he is. I'm just going to go ahead and I don't know how much time we got, but if we got time for it, I'm just going to go ahead and start the speculative discussion now, starting with Halpern. Yes, he's an assistant coach in Tampa. He's been with John Cooper for many years, all through their Cup years at the very least. So yes, you have someone that has ties to the Caps, that has studied at the feet of a master, one of the best coaches in the whole league, going, at least 9-10 years now, John Cooper. Would he be a good fit? Yes. Am I 100% comfortable with him taking over the team as it is right now? No. And I'll tell you why. It's because one of those 2 coaches that CP3 mentioned had 0 head coaching experience when he took over. And look what happened. And unfortunately, Halpern, as learned as he is, also does not have any head coaching experience at any level. So I fear a repeat of history if the Caps were to hire him. Now, alternatively, you've got other coaches out there that also have a tie to the team in one form or another. Probably the best name out there is Spencer Carberry. He is an assistant with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Before that, he was the head coach of the Hershey Bears, of course, the Caps' current AHL affiliate, the minor league team. And he spent many years building them up to the power that they are now. And so, of course, he knows all of the young talent that's already in the pipeline, has been for a while, knows development, knows how to, infuse youth into the lineup, something they desperately needed. So if there's such a thing as a front runner, he's probably it right now. I'm sure they've got their eye on him. They'd be stupid not to consider him at all. And then, of course, you have the current head coach of the Bears, Todd Nelson, who has maintained what Carberry has done and helped, the Bears continue their run as a solid Calder Cup contender. So right now, those are probably the three big names. There's probably a couple others out there, but I think those are the big three, at least in all media, hockey media that I come in contact with. Those are the ones being talked about.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like any of those choices. I mean, I do like Jeff Halpern. It's funny because Jeff Halpern's name has come up on this podcast before because he was actually the coach, of our Olympian Haley Skrupa. So he taught her when he was younger and was one of her connections to the Capitals originally. So I think that'd be kind of a fun, since she still works for them as well. So I'm sure she would be happy to see him again. So I mean, I would love the hometown hero to come back, especially because he worked with Ovi early on in his career. So it'd be kind of fun to have that brought back, and what are some of your thoughts, C4?
My concern with that is, like Gil said, he doesn't have the head coaching experience, but then the other concern I have is he's played with some of these guys. He's played with a lot of these guys before. And how do you sort of, for lack of a better word, translate from, or transition or whatever from, hey, you were my line mate, my teammate, whatever, and now I'm your coach. How would he handle that? I mean, yes, we would welcome him home with open arms, but as a former player in the organization and you've played with some of these guys that you're now coaching, I can't imagine that's going to be an easy situation, or an easy transition. So, yes, I think he's learned a lot in Tampa where he is. I do think, though, he does need the head coaching experience. But the other concern that I had that's kind of been in the back of my mind is how do you balance that former teammate friendship? Now you're a coach, and he may have the personality to be able to do that. I don't know. I haven't watched him that club. I don't follow the coaching ranks as closely as most people do. I do like the idea of Carberry or Todd Nelson coming in. I would probably, Carberry probably would have the edge because he's already in the NHL. So he's got the NHL experience that Nelson doesn't have. But other than that, I think, any one of those three would probably be good. But my concern with Halpin would be that, former player, friend, now your coach.
Right. I agree with,
transition with
we haven't
that.
had the best luck with coaches that haven't been head coaches before, our one time where we
and we haven't had a lot of luck with coaches who played for the team before, a la, what was it, Adam Oates?
Right, and Dale Hunter.
And Dale Hunter, right. So
I still kind of want Gabby back. Not because I think that he would win us any cups, but just because I think his run and gun system would score Ovi a lot of goals over the next 3 years. So, I don't know. But well, it depends on what we're valuing, I guess. What is the goal for the next years? So,
I think Ovi wants another cup. I really do. I think he wants another cup before he retires.
He could care less about the record. He wants another cup. I mean, he's going to get it. It's inevitable he's going to get it. It's just a matter of when he's going to get it. So he's not even worried about that. He wants to get the team back into shape so they can make the playoff run and try to get another cup. The records mean nothing to him right now. He'll sit back in his later days and, worry about that. Right now, he wants another cup.
I just don't know if any of the three people that were mentioned, I think of in my head being like, they're going to bring us a cup in the next 3 years. Right? I mean, they're all solid, fine people, and those are the people that we're talking about. I don't think there's a ton of options out there right now, but I just don't know if all three sound fine, but I don't say, hey, that's the guy. But maybe it's an unknown person who's going to, do it, and maybe it's the tried and true people are falling out. It all depends on whether or not they're good at developing talent and working with the superstars and the different people in the room. Gil, I got a question for you, and I think maybe we'll just kind of skip the going through all the games last week. I mean, it doesn't really matter, how the games went last week. We lost the games that we needed to lose to fall in the draft pick. That's kind of the important thing. And there was a very exciting game against New Jersey that maybe we'll quickly go through, but the one in Boston, I don't know if we need to talk too much about. But for me, there's talk that maybe Nicky should retire. There's a lot of friends that I have in a lot of these Capitals, fan groups that believe that $9 million could, go a long way towards, the rebuilding and the retooling and how are you going to get it to a situation where Nick Backstrom is worth $9 million again? And I don't know what the answer is. But Gil, do you think that there's enough value there, or do you think that he should take one for the team, so to speak, and retire?
Well, my answer to that would be, well, me personally, I it's killing me to say this, but I'm leaning towards yes. The only thing preventing me from giving it a solid yes is the fact that you have to consider that Backstrom did not have a proper training camp, a proper off season, a proper time period or scheduling to prepare for the season. And you add on top of that the fact that when he and Wilson were reinserted into the lineup, they were immediately expected to do top line duty, which was a grievous mistake on the part of the coaching staff, probably part of why they're not coming back. So last year was a nice kind of set the stage practice run for Backstrom, but I don't know that he's really had enough time and space to prepare. So I think the wise thing would be, I mean, you're paying him $9.2 mil a year anyway. Give him one more year. Let him fill out. Yes, it's embarrassing that you're paying somebody almost $10 mil to be a third line center, but leave him on the power play as well, since that's where he still excels, and let him finish out the year. At the very least, he can mentor any younger forwards that come onto the team, and then reevaluate. That should be the plan. You don't simply cast aside a Nick Backstrom. Yes, I understand he's on the very wrong side of 30 right now, and he's definitely lost a step. But at the same time, he's feeling better than he has been in years. And I think now that this year's behind him and he's a lot closer to 100%, give him one more year. Let him play it out. Don't just jettison him. See where you are with him, and then at the end of the year, then okay, what can you do for us here? Can you renegotiate? Can you can you help us out here, because we need cap space help?
NHL salaries. That's the thing that sucks.
Well, that's right. Yeah. That's very true. But since he's over that age limit, if I'm not mistaken, there wouldn't be a cap recapture penalty. So that's the good thing they have going for them. But
I do think that there's no penalty, but you still have to pay him a prorated part of that salary. You don't get it all back on the book.
Right.
I believe that you would still owe somewhere between $2 and $3 million out of that $9 back. We would accrue about $6 million in space, if I read it correctly. It's all very complicated. I will be totally honest. But from my
understanding, don't even try to understand it.
Right. So I know Carol doesn't either. So
I won't even try.
But I think you get about $6 million back, which is not nothing. I mean, I just you could buy 3 good players potentially for $6 million or some rentals in there. So I don't want to say it's not anything, but Nicholas Backstrom is a really great player. Carol, what are some of your thoughts on Nick Backstrom and giving him one more year?
I definitely agree, giving him, like you say, the way it sounded like I just came up with a solution or whatever, to save if there's a $2 million hit and you save $6 million to keep him. Because if he's not ready to retire, then you shouldn't even consider it, because then he's going to go somewhere else and, still continue to do his thing. He's still good. He had the hip injury. He finally got the surgery, that's hopefully going to fix it and not just, make it so he can get through. And then he might have another 2-3 good years in him and, could miss out on helping, Ovi get his goals and get another Stanley Cup here. So He's under contract. See if you can do like you guys were talking about with the whatever restructuring and take the $2
Well, no.
million.
What we're saying is there is no restructuring. I say the only way you get the $6 million back is if you cut him. So you'd only get 6 of the 9 you owe him. Is what I'm saying. So you don't even get all $9 million back.
So they can't extend them with the current and like add a little bit something on to spread it out.
No. There's no Bobby Bonilla in in this one. So,
I mean by extending them and just like giving them an extra $1 million on the extension, but it'd be spread it out. It'd be basically spread out the other whatever.
You can't renegotiate contracts. You can only add extensions.
That's
the whole
crazy.
thing is very locked in.
That makes no sense.
Yeah. Unfortunately, NHL is like the reverse of the NFL, where they have no guaranteed contracts, but they do have signing bonuses. And yeah, I kind of wish the NHL would structure their contracts like that, so the salary cap wouldn't be as much of a
it's so tight
crap hole
really
that it is.
Yeah, I mean, teams are trying to skate by it all the time. I mean, just today, the Vegas activated a player. They did the same thing that Tampa Bay's been doing for a couple of years now, activating players on the last day of the season or the first day of the playoffs, so that way they don't go against the cap and all that sort of stuff. So I think we're either stuck with Nick Backstrom or we still have to, we get $6 million back and hope that, he sort of retires and, as Carol says, doesn't go to another team to dominate. I really think that if we were to do that, he would retire. I just don't see him, going to another team, but maybe he could.
No.
Come on now. He's a hockey player. He loves the Capitals, but he's a hockey player first.
This depends on no one's ever come back from it, though.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, Robbie, but I got to agree with CP3. If he's motivated enough and he still thinks he's got stuff in the tank, he might jump to another team for one more year just to prove it.
Yeah.
It's possible. So I briefly talked about the games. Just going to go over the scores just so we can have them on record, just because we've talked about every game up until now, so at least let's finish it off. So last Monday we were live for the Islanders win. The Boston was a 5-2 loss in Boston. Hathaway got one of those goals against us. At one point we cut it to 2-1. They made it 3-1. Tom Wilson on the power play made it 3-2, but then Hathaway made it 4-2, and then they got an empty net in that one. So in the New Jersey game, we scored the very first 3 goals, including a Joe Snively goal, a Sandin goal, and a Craig Smith goal to make it 3-0. They get one back at the end of the first, make it 3-1. Tom Wilson in the first minute, or just over the first minute of the second period, scores his 13th of the season, makes it 4-1, and it seemed like it was in the bag until they score a goal at the very end of the second period to make it 4-2, and then they score a goal at the beginning of the third period to make it 4-3 and make everyone nervous. And then halfway through the third period, our old friend Dougie Hamilton scores his 22nd of the season, ties it up 4-4, goes to overtime, and they win in overtime with a Luke Hughes first goal of the season, 5-4 in that regards. But I've been trying to say we did not want to win that game because I was scared if for some reason Vancouver lost their game, they would have ducked under us, and there's a couple other teams right there. So that extra point really didn't do us any favors, and at least it was an exciting game for Caps fans. But I guess they're treated to more of the same, where you either start well and don't finish well, or you start badly and you finish well, but it's not enough. It's been more of those sorts of games all season long, and kind of fitting to end it on that one. I'll let each one of you give final thoughts on the final week just real quickly, and then we'll take a quick look at the NHL playoffs as well. But Carol, thoughts on the last week of the season for the Caps?
Frustrating. I mean, you saw glimpses against the Isles of what the team could have, been if they were healthy and consistent. And then, like you said, you saw the, fast start and then let the lead go, or giving up the lead early and then, fighting but to come up short. So it was just a combination of it all. I mean, the team has been good for a long time. Things have to go your way. Puck has to bounce your way. Health has to play a major role in. All 3 of those things weren't going the way for this team at one given time consistently enough. They started out okay, with the injuries at the beginning of the season, with Wilson being out, Nicky being out. They were treading water, impressing some folks. But, throughout the season, with Oshie hitting the injured wire a couple of times. Some of the Connor Sherry being out, so it was just too much plug and play. And with the coach, not really being a big proponent of letting the younger guys play and giving them a chance to learn on the fly. And when they got in there, they were over their heads. That's the kind of you have to find the balance. And that's why I think Trotz, had the balance with his team, with the veterans and the young guys. He knew how much time to give them, how much to trust them, and let them earn that trust. And when it was time for them to go out there, they were ready to do it. And that's the type of coach we're going to need to go forward. So, a lot of folks, mad or upset or yada, yada, yada. Excuse me. But for the most part, this team has been successful. They haven't brought home the hardware like everyone is like, but it could be worse. We could be some of these teams that haven't been to the playoffs in a long, long time. So just ride with them. Hopefully we get a decent coach and they don't take too long so they can start the transition period. So hit the all season running and, do whatever they got to do under the cap, make these tough decisions and hopefully get back to winning ways. And that's all we can hope for as fans.
Right. I just want to go over the notable players lost man games to injury. It's just because it's an important list. I know we should never blame injuries for the season, but when you have this many to so many key players, it's tough. Hagelin missed all the games, right? He was there every day coming to practice, I heard from Ovechkin. He was there trying to get back for the whole season and never could. So credit to Carl Hagelin for putting in the work, even if we never saw him. But, he is a great player and is a kind of a Swiss Army blade guy that you could throw in during other players' injuries. You don't have that. But that's a key person you're missing that we never got to even talk about. Connor Brown, a potential guy that was offseason one of our best players. When we were coming into the season, we were talking about how great Connor Brown is and how much of a difference maker he could be. He lost 78 games of this season. And the games he did show up for, he was fantastic, And Tom Wilson, 49 games. He is one of those heart and soul pieces to the thing. He had a lot of different injuries, including the one that he started the season, but, he got nicked up in the rest of it. Nicholas Backstrom, 43 games coming back from one of the hardest injuries, but really tried to come back. But John Carlson's injury with these 42 games might be the most significant one. When Ovechkin was asked, what do you think the turning point in this season was? Because at one point we were in the playoff picture. We were doing well. We were, pretty decently high up in the Metro. We were even out of the wild card for a big part of the season. And they asked Ovechkin, what do you think it was where this whole thing fell apart? And he pointed to John Carlson. He said, when Carly went down, he says their best defenders, this is Ovechkin's words, not mine, when he went down, he's the key part of our power play. We were just never able to truly recover from that. And there was so much shit talking on John Carlson in the first half of the season, but you really see that even a subpar John Carlson is significantly better than not having him at all, right? So this kind of proves the point that this roundtable had talked about to some extent, but other Caps fans try to poo-poo on him a lot, but he, I think, is a vital part of our offense. There are times where he has missed assignments on defense, I will agree. But he's able to push the thing enough that it clearly, at least in Ovechkin's mind, made a big difference. And the other key people, TJ Oshie, 23 games missed, including, an injury towards the end of the season that really slowed him down. Nick Dowd missing 16 games. Havari missing 15. Darcy Kemper missing 9. Although the backup goalie did well during some of those. And Ovechkin missing 5 games due to injury. That's not including all the other games he missed. He missed a total, I believe, of 9 games this season. 5 games due to injury. And so when you add all that up, it's hard to make the playoffs in such a competitive Metro division, right? And it's not the reason we didn't make it. There's a lot of things. I think the coaching is a big part. But I think that it's important as we are coming to the close of the season that we at least have to acknowledge the fact that it played a very, very major role in this. But Gil, what are some of your thoughts on the last week?
Well, I was very pleased, very happy with the overall effort and the compete level. I knew for sure they weren't going to have much of a chance against the uncrowned president, that at that point, uncrowned President's Trophy winner, Boston. And yet they more than made a game of it. That was the game that Charlie Lindgren made a save with his glove hand missing. Reached out and tried to stop the puck with his bare hand. Thankfully, it didn't hit him in the bare hand.
Yeah.
But I mean, stuff like that, you got to tip your hat to the effort that they made. And I mean, really, with them out of the playoffs, that's really all you can hope for is have them put out their best effort regardless. I don't think they were tanking. They certainly didn't give the air of a team that were trying to lose and trying to improve their draft position. I know we all kind of wish for that, but
Right.
I mean, come on.
To be
They are
fair, I
still.
want people to know I was being a little bit facetious.
I get it. I get that. But
for people who might be listening back, maybe they don't. So I do want to at least put it on record that I was kind of kidding. They did try pretty hard. And at the time, people forget the Devils had something to play for in that game. The division had not been won yet. And that last game, came down to the very last day. They're only 1 point separating Carolina and New Jersey, 112 to 113. And Carolina was doing pretty well, but then they started to falter in their game, and I don't know how much information gets funneled down to the players, but I sort of assume that something might, and so you could see the compete level of New Jersey coming up when they thought that, hey, Carolina didn't have it in the bag in their game, like they were starting to fall off a little bit, and you could kind of see, I was watching both games simultaneously, which is why I think that maybe a message, carrier pigeon or something got down there, but and so they had something at least they thought to compete for, and at least to try to get to the division title, because it would make a bit of a difference in who they would have to play for. But so it's not like that New Jersey had nothing to play for in that game. But I am happy that they competed strongly. C4, real quickly, your thoughts on the last week?
Yeah, same as Gil. It was nice to see the compete level. Yeah, we didn't win the games. It was a little frustrating to see them give up a 4-point lead, but they don't call, New Jersey the comeback kids for nothing. I mean, they came back from leads like that many times during the season. I think Lachlan mentioned it several times. So, I mean, it didn't surprise me too much that they came back like that. But all in all, it was a fun last week. They left it on the ice. They did the best they could. They weren't, like Gil said, it didn't look like they were tanking. So I'm, frustrated that we didn't get to the playoffs, but all in all, happy with the way it ended, I think.
I was saying, joking the day of, it's kind of the best of both worlds. They tried and they lost. So
Well,
got the better.
Yeah.
But anyway, it'll be interesting. So let's talk really quickly about the playoff matchups. I'm not going to spend too much time in it, but we're just going to go through the bracket real fast for anybody who might want to continue to watch hockey past the Capitals season. You can see if you're live on Twitch, the score just went final. Carolina Hurricanes beat the Islanders 2-1 in the first game in that series. The next game that's going on right now is the Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers. That game is 3-1. Boston is up. They're in the third period, about 15 minutes left. So I think the two higher seeds are going to, take care of business, as they say, right? So the other seeds are the Toronto is going to play Tampa Bay, which is always an interesting matchup. That'll be a 7:30 game tomorrow, I believe. And then at 7 o'clock tomorrow, New Jersey plays the Rangers, which is always like this big kind of rivalry in some sense. These two teams don't really like each other historically. I don't think it's been as big a rivalry in the more recent years, but I've talked to Rangers fans through history, and they always hated the Devils. So it'll be interesting to see that rivalry renewed in the playoffs. And then on the other side of the bracket, Vegas is playing Winnipeg. That's the 1-4. Edmonton's playing LA. That's at the 10 o'clock game tonight. And then the earlier game that's about to start any minute now is Dallas at Minnesota. That's the 2-3 matchup. And the 1-4 matchup on that side of the bracket is Colorado and Seattle.
I think they're actually in Dallas, aren't they? I believe so. Yeah, they're in Dallas.
It is in Dallas. It's just listed very strangely. Okay. Usually you put the home team at the bottom. The home team's at the top of this map. So you're right. So sorry, it's in Dallas. And then the obviously Colorado is hosting the Kraken tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So lots of exciting different matchups. I'll let each one of you guys pick one series in the East and one series in the West that you might be watching if you continue to care, which is fair if you don't. Gil, I'll start with you. What's your favorite matchup in the East to check out in this first round?
I don't know if I have a favorite. I mean, it's kind of like watching your girlfriend walk away with somebody else. So I don't know if I'm really going to keep an eye on the East. But if I did, I guess it would be Devils Rangers. I said last week, I'm sticking to it. I think the Devils have a very good chance at beating the Rangers. I something about the Rangers, the way they've been playing, seems a bit off to me, and I think the Devils' youth and speed is going to serve them well in this game. They may not have all the experience, but I think in the end, that relentless attack that they have is just going to be too much. So I guess if I did have a favorite, it'd be that. A lot of sentimentality is going towards Toronto winning its series. I'm going to pour cold water on that right now. They won't. I think Tampa's experience will kick in. I don't see where Toronto's done anything different this year other than Samsonov in goal, and he's got the potential to get really hot. And if he does, yes, there's a chance he could steal the series. I just don't see it happening this year.
I think Tampa Bay has just so much playoff experience.
Yeah.
At this
yeah.
point,
I think that's just going to be far too much for Toronto. It'll probably go 6, maybe 7 games, but I just can't see them getting out of the first round this year either.
And they even got home advantage this time, but I still don't know if it's going to be enough. All right, in the West, real quickly, what's the one that the series you care about most in the West?
I don't, because I don't think. Well, no, that's not true. I like Colorado in the West. I think they are going to make. Not short work of the Kraken. At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if the Kraken takes it to 6 games, but I think Colorado's overall game is just a little bit too much for them. But Kraken's going to compete. They're going to make a series out of it, even if it only goes 4 or 5 games. They're going to look really good. They're going to challenge Colorado, I think, but not unlike Tampa Bay. I think Colorado's just got too much experience, both up front and on the back line. Maybe not so much in goal anymore, but that one's going to be fun to watch because I think you're starting to see the building blocks, and I'm starting to get on board with C4 about this of a team in Seattle that is building towards eventually being a perennial playoff contender year over year. So it's gonna be fun to watch that develop.
All right, C4, you're the East series that you are interested in.
Well, sort of as I said at the beginning of the show, the Bruins and the Panthers. Bruins are my sentimental team. My daddy and I grew up watching them together. So my daddy was a Bruins fan. He grew up in Massachusetts, and he played hockey. So I'm the Bruins and the Panthers. I think the Panthers, well, they're losing 3-1 right now, but I think they play hard when they are on their home ice. So they're going to make a series of it, I think. When they get down into Florida, I think Bruins are going to have a tougher time playing down there. So that'll be a fun series to watch. I think Bruins are going to take it in the end, probably in 5 or 6 games. In the West, I got to go with the Kraken, my dark horse. So I'm sticking with them. They'll put up a fight. Ultimately, I think Colorado will take the series, but I've got to go with the Kraken in the West. I got to watch that series. As far as Toronto's going to be an interesting series to watch against Tampa to see how they do. It'll be interesting to see how Sammy does in what I would consider a true playoff atmosphere, as opposed to last year when he and Vanacek were back and forth. When he knows he's the number one guy in the playoffs and he knows he's the number one guy, it's going to be interesting to see how he plays the playoffs this year. Because last year it was like, well, is it Vanacek? Is it Sammy? Is it Vanacek? Is it Sammy? So I think him knowing he's the guy is going to make him step up to another level. Maybe not like the level, but it's going to make him step up a level. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays against Tampa.
I think they'll lose a lot of heartbreaking double overtime games. Is there any hockey that you're still gonna watch, or what are your thoughts?
I'm a tune in. I'll check it out in the East. I guess I'm more with the Carolina Islanders series, because two teams that play defense, but also, Carolina can score. Islanders sometimes struggle to score, but I'll probably be watching that one more closely. The Toronto Tampa Bay thing, I would love to see Toronto finally, get past the first round and upset the Lightning. But like you said, the experience they have, the way, the way they, find a way to win, I think they're going to be too much. And honestly, the series I'm really watching in the West is the Edmonton King versus the Kings. I want to see
I'm happy you brought that up because that's the one I care about the most.
Yeah, I want to see what McDavid does in the playoffs. I was just looking at his numbers, and it's ridiculous what this kid is doing. I just want to see what is going to happen in the playoffs with this team.
I hope it continues. I hope they go on a magical run. I really would love for them to actually win it all this year. Canada hasn't won it all in a long time, and I think it would be a great story. And I don't know. I just think they've always been one of my favorite teams out west. One of my best friends is a big Oilers fan, whereas like Caps and Oilers are 1 and 2 for him. And I don't know. I think it would be exciting to see. I think it'd be hilarious for a team to win it in Canada that's not Toronto with all the opportunities that they've had. It would just be, and I don't know. I'm with you, Carol. I think Connor's had a great year. It'd be fun for him to see that continue and to go on some sort of glorious run and stuff like that. And it would remind me very much of what Ovechkin did for us.
I mean, he had 153 points. That's crazy.
Ridiculous.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
I'm like, what?
That is insane.
Over 60 goals. He led the league in both goals and assists and points.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
he is something
like
else.
Gretzky
He is
level stuff, It doesn't happen very often anymore. So.
And he's what? This is his third or fourth season?
Third?
For a little bit. I don't remember.
Third or fourth, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So just imagine what he's going to be like 7 or 8 years in.
Right.
Yep.
So I do hope that they continue. So I'm happy you brought that one up because that's the one that I care the most about. I just hate that it's on the West Coast, so those games are going to be so freaking late all the time. So I don't know if I'm staying up till 1 in the morning watching them, but I think those would be worthwhile to watch for anybody that is able to.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go around the round table one last time. Any final thoughts before we let our esteemed colleagues go? I mean, we'll definitely maybe bring you guys back for some hockey talk at some point, whether it's draft or, somewhere down the road, and obviously as we tune up for next season. But this is the last time where Caps Talk will be first for at least a little while. But I want to say thank you to both C4 and Gil for being a big part of the podcast this season, and Anna as well earlier on. I know she's been super busy these last couple of weeks, and I appreciate C4 for stepping in. But I'm going to start with you, C4, first. Any final thoughts that you have on this season, on the Capitals, or anything you want to share with us before we let you go?
I think, again, all in all, a good season. I am, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, I am actually kind of glad we did not make the playoffs this year, especially considering all the injuries we had. And I think, some of the guys really weren't 100% when they came back. So now they have that extra, 4 or 5 weeks to recover and recuperate. So instead of only the tail end of June, July, and the first part of August, they now have all of May, all of June, all of July, and a fair amount of August to recover. So that gives them more time to recover, reflect, train, get in shape for next year, figure out what we have to do. So I'm really looking forward to the next year. It's going to be a tough year, I think, next year, but I'm still looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fun to watch what happens in the next couple of years with what's going on.
Cool.
But,
thank you so much for all your time. I appreciate it, and we'll definitely.
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing.
Appreciate that. Glad to have you on also.
All right, Gil, final thoughts before we let you go.
Well, Robbie, thanks again. Just to start off for another great year. Wishing for continued growth for both of our shows. Thank you for carrying us and helping us to grow. And it's been a pretty good year for the podcast. This latest episode, just want to say, got a gentleman by the name of Jeff Kravitz coming on with us. A lot of Caps fans may know him. He often hosts Twitter Spaces, hosting live discussions not only about Caps hockey but Nats baseball, Wizards basketball, basically, a lot of DC sports. Mainly in the evenings. So he's got some thoughts and opinions on how the Caps should go forward. And speaking of which, I mean, keep your eye on this season. It's going to be probably the most interesting and action-packed off seasons in some time. So do please keep your eye on it. I strongly advise following Sammy Silver, who is now a columnist with the Hockey News, the Bible of Hockey. She comes out with some great articles with the news as it happens. So she is fantastic. We had her on the show a few weeks ago, so strongly advise that. Just we'll say one last thing. We've got some upcoming episodes for the podcast. We're not quite done. We're going to cover the draft and free agent day. And in about 2 weeks into May, we're going to do a check-in with any of the fans that want to, because we don't want to forget that mental health is a pretty important thing. And springtime, I looked some statistics. Springtime tends to be a pretty bad season for mental health. So I'm going to put the word out there in a few weeks that anybody that wants to talk, maybe feeling a little bit more depressed than usual about the Caps or anything, can come on. We can just have kind of an informal roundtable. So just one more way that we want to show that we care about the Caps fan community. So that's pretty much it. So thanks again, Robbie. CP3, been another great year, and God bless you both.
I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
So yeah, if you go to sports@thp.com, click on the podcast partners button, click on Power Play Point podcast, you can get all of the latest episodes there. Also, on the Team Sports at THP link, there's also a section for Gil and all of his links and stuff there. So thank you to both of them for joining us, and we're going to switch over to a bit of Defenders talk here, and we're going to bring in the Champ as well for that. Yeah, so Champ, how are you doing? Oh, I think we got Champ coming in now. So we'll let him see you, I think. All right.
Damn it, Champ. I just switched.
There we go. I think you're still muted though, Champ. There we go.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
How's it going?
What's
Good,
going on,
good.
Champ?
Not much. Just sitting here vibing. Good week for the Defenders. Good week for the Defenders. We had a home playoff game.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm fingers crossed that maybe the three of us will make it there. We're still trying to work all that out, but that's the dream, right? So I would love to be able to catch a football game with you guys, especially Defenders 1. We're going to get into Carol's thoughts about going to his, I believe, very first Defenders game, right? Carol,
First Defenders game, first time at Audi Field.
Nice. So I will get all of Carol's thoughts on that. We'll obviously get Champ's analysis of it. I'm just going to quickly go over the score and how the scoring went in that game, just so people who may have missed it are up to date on that. So it was on Sunday. It was a noon start time. The first score was a field goal by the Arlington the Renegades. And so then DC came back down. We got a touchdown with a 2-point conversion failed. So we took a 3-point lead there. Lucky Jackson, 14-yard pass from Tamu. 2-point pass conversion failed. So now it's 3-12. The Renegades get a 25-yard touchdown pass. Their 2-point run conversion failed. So they were still down 3. Then a touchdown, 6-yard pass from King and then a pass from King to Ferguson for the 2-point conversion. So finally, a 2-point conversion was made to go up by 11 going into halftime. So that was about 40 seconds left in the first half. In the third quarter, only one scoring play. A DJ Swearinger, a former Commander, 62-yard interception return, or 2-point run conversion failed. So they go up by a score of 26-9, and it seemingly is over. And Carroll reports that we've started to even do the wave, which I believe is the biggest, jinxiest thing you can do in modern sports. And then after the wave, they get a 1-yard touchdown with a 2-point run conversion failed to make it 26-15. Then they score a touchdown with 1 minute and 20 seconds left, a 1-yard run. And then the 2-yard conversion was converted to make it a 3-point game. Then they converted on the 4th and 15 try. They get down the field. They think that they finally get off the field, but then they throw the challenge flag because the announcer was like, throw the challenge flag, find something, because there's always holding or whatever on every play. Sure enough, they found the holding, continued the drive, and they were able to score a 27-yard field goal with 5 seconds left to make it 26-all. Then it goes to overtime, and in overtime, it's like the shootout, I'll remind our fans. So there's 3 opportunities for a 2-point try for each team, and DC converts on one of those, and they hold the Renegades to 0 for 3 in their tries. Carol, I'll start with you. What was the atmosphere like? What were your thoughts on when things were going well and then when things were falling off? Did you believe that they were still going to gut it out, or were you nervous in overtime? Tell me everything.
Well, it was a great experience to get there. The seats that we had were great field level. We were in the corner. When I got there on the beginning of the half, they were coming towards me, so I got some good footage that I haven't had a chance to put together yet. Been a crazy day. The atmosphere was, lovely as always. Whenever I've been out to events, first time at Audi Field, first time at Defenders game. Excuse me. Thank you. First time, the atmosphere was great. The fans, I caught the Metro in. Everybody was ready. That the Nats fans and the Defenders fans, with both games going on pretty much at the same time. Like I said, great atmosphere. To see the beer snake grow in person was a epic thing. I looked over, it was halfway up. Next thing I looked, it was all the way up. Throughout the game, the Defenders pretty much had control of it. I mean, looking at the numbers, that's what when I was going over the numbers today, it surprised me how the Renegades outgained them on paper. But watching the game, the Defenders had felt like had the control of the game until the fourth quarter. And on that challenge, I didn't know I was there. I thought it was, change of possession. And then after, the challenge, they came and said that it was a holding or whatever, 5-yard penalty. So, we were a little upset as the fans. There were some questionable things that could have been, not called, that were called, that weren't getting called in the first half. So it was, kind of frustrating to see things come down with the influence of the referee and, some of the plays not going the Defenders' way, but ultimately at the end with their overtime. A lot of folks didn't know the overtime rules. I posted it, the rules while we were at the game. And that is a, unique situation, 2-point conversion 3 times. I don't have a problem with it. Some folks didn't like it, but it was the way the game ended. And on that Swearinger pick 6, on a side note, I was getting ready to film that play. I was in prime position, and my girlfriend had me go meet one of her ex-coworkers, and I had to put my phone down. And as we're walking up to meet them, I hear the pick 6 and the crowd roar, and I could just drop my head and be like, wow, I could have had that prime footage, but being a boyfriend was more important in that moment. Now I understand your struggle, Robbie, with having a family and a podcast now. I truly understand your pain.
Get the pick and not have it undocumented and not get it. So, but
It
anyway,
still hurts, man. It still hurts.
I'm sure that it does. Were you nervous in the overtime situation? Do you think we had it? How was your feeling
Well,
on that?
honestly, because I didn't know the rules. By the time I read the board and read what the rules were, then I could understand it. And then when we got it, then when I finally realized what the rules were, we scored ours, and I was like, all right, just hold them, and then we win, and they did, and we won. So I didn't even have a chance to get worried because I didn't even know the overtime rules until, cause I think they've only had 4 overtime games this whole season throughout the league. So I wasn't even sure what the rules were until I read the scoreboard when they put the rules up there, and I'm like, huh, that's different. And by the time, like I said, I read it, the first 2 times it already went by the wayside, and it was 0-0, and the defenders got theirs, and they missed their next one. So, hey, it was celebration. We won, and solidified home field for the semifinal game in the playoffs.
Yeah, actually, I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I know last week there was 2 overtime games.
Yeah, I think it was 2 last week, and it was 1 this week along with our game. So I think it's only been 4 the whole season because they didn't have any until last week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think we're the only one this week. So I think it's just been the 3.
Oh, I thought there was an overtime game this week too. I thought it was who was it? The
No,
Roughnecks.
that game ended in regulation.
Oh,
there was a 2-point game, but it wasn't an overtime game.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a Roughnecks went to OT.
Yeah. Yeah, no. According to nope. Yeah, no. Last week, but anyway. So yeah, only 3rd time ever. And I know you were super busy last week, but I did go over the that. So hopefully, people who are podcast fans of ours understood the rules going into it. So I appreciated the understanding level of it. I think it was a cool way to do it. It's kind of a hybrid of the NHL and the college game. Champ, I know you got to check it out a little bit this morning. What were some of your thoughts on the game?
Right. So this was a very unique game for the defenders because they had established their offensive identity as a running team, yet it was the pass game that ultimately won them this game against the Renegades. Yes, they also did have DJ Swearinger, welcome back to DC, with the big pick 6. And what was funny about that pick 6 was they had some all access, and Coach Bob Stoops was admonishing the running back for trying to do a double move when that wasn't the route. And so he told the quarterback that wasn't your fault. That was his fault because he did a double move when the play was not a double move, and the quarterback was doing what he was supposed to do, which was throwing it at that spot. But homie wanted to go do an out and up, and that left homie like just exposed, and DJ just had an easy pitch and catch for it to go the other way. So I kind of found that a little bit funny to me that Bob Stoops admonished a wide receiver for running the wrong route, leading to that pick 6 touchdown. But the defenders had 7 total offensive drives in this game, and they scored touchdowns on 3 of those 7 offensive drives. And again, the passing game was the big catalyst here, with Teamu having 2 touchdown passes. He did have the interception. De'Aaron King also had an interception. But in the grand scheme of things, though, the team played pretty well in this one. Outside of the 2 interceptions that they threw, the running game was pretty much stopped. They had 50 total yards on 20 carries, so that's not very good for a team that's known for being a running team and leading the league in rushing. And Lucky Jackson, I mean, his first name has got to mean something because he only had 2 catches. Those 2 catches happened to be touchdown passes. But I think that what was really exciting, though, was I got nervous when the Renegades converted that 4th and long after getting that score, and I got a little bit nervous. But then when the defenders were able to hold them to just tying the ball game and then going into the overtime and getting the 1 2-point conversion successful attempt, whereas Renegades couldn't get one. And I think that was a big thing. And I think that the defenders really needed this because now they're guaranteed that when it's the division game in a couple of weeks, it will be at Audi Field, which is one of the rowdiest stadiums and one of the rowdiest fan bases in the XFL. Whoever comes out of the North Division after the defenders, they're going to have a tough time coming into DC and dealing with that crowd because it's going to be a hell of a time. And I think that with this team now being able to pass the ball as effectively as they were able to run the ball, they're going to be really hard to beat, honestly.
Yeah. So real quickly, I do want to talk about who they're going to play. So This week, an important game that was right after ours is between the Sea Dragons and the Battlehawks. The Battlehawks had won that at home, they would have clinched the second spot. The Sea Dragons came in and they gave them quite a match from the get go. It was a really interesting battle, back and forth game. But ultimately, in the fourth quarter, the Sea Dragons were able to pull away for a huge victory because now it sets it up where the Battlehawks play the Guardians, the worst team in one division, and the Sea Dragons play the Vipers, the worst team in the other division. And if the Sea Dragon, and if so, basically, if they both win, it may come down to total points, I believe, or it might be actually. I'm not sure if it's total points or if it's the plus minus, points for, versus points against. But either way, I know that the Sea Dragons were trying to run up the score on the Battlehawks because they knew that the points were going to matter if they both end in the same spot. So,
Robbie, I have the tiebreakers looking. I'm looking at the tiebreakers right now.
right.
If it's between two teams, it's 8 ways they're going to break the tie, depending on how it goes down. Head to head, best win-loss percentage in division games, strength of victory in all games, meaning combined record of opponents and wins, best combined ranking among division teams in points scored and points allowed in all games, best combined ranking among all teams in points scored and points allowed in all games, best net points in all games, best net touchdowns in all games, and then if all of that can't break the tie, it'll come down to a coin toss.
Right. So I believe in reading it correctly, and I don't. There's a lot there that to unpack. I believe it could come down to points, and so I think it's going to be who can run up the score better on the bad teams is going to win this thing. Or if one team loses and one wins, it's easy, right? But I think if they both win, it's going to come down to that because both the Vipers and the Guardians are both at the very bottom. I mean, the Sea Dragons will be playing a slightly better team in the Vipers and the Guardians, but the Guardians did beat DC, so I think that increased their, where the Vipers didn't, right? So the strength of schedule, I think, will end up being pretty even. So I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to points, but it'll be interesting to see those two games. It'll be the first game and the last game of Week 10. Our game versus San Antonio doesn't mean a whole lot other than the fact that if San Antonio wins and the Renegades lose, then they might be in a situation very similar where they will have the same record. So basically San Antonio has something to play for, assuming that the Roughnecks take care of business, although they don't have a whole lot to play for themselves. It's going to be interesting to see what should we do as a team. So I'll bring this up to Carol, because I talked a little bit of it Champ last week. But Carol, do you think we play more King, our normal or secondary quarterback, even though there is like a 1A, 1B, and you rest your primary quarterback a little bit? Because there's nothing really positive for the defenders. The other team has something to play for. But whether we end up 8-2 or 9-1 doesn't really change anything for us. Do you go all out, or do you rest some of your starters and let some of the people that are lower in the depth chart get a little bit more reps in case we need them in the playoffs if someone goes down for an injury?
After talking with the coach a couple of weeks ago, still working on, coordinate schedules to get the interview. I might wait till after they win the championship, but who knows. But talking to the coach, to his personality and the way he thinks, I don't see any let up. I don't see any resting any players. I see them practicing hard like they do, going out there executing. They lost to the worst team in the league a couple of weeks ago. One thing I mentioned to him, possible undefeated season. That's what they were shooting for. It was good they took a loss early. Well, not early in the season, but early in this run to, get them back refocused. And I feel like, he's going to come out there and have them, in regular season mode, get ready to go to the playoffs come third, fourth quarter, depending on where the score is at or how things are going. He might put some of the other guys in to get them some reps that might not have got any, but they rotate a lot and, interchange players a lot. So I don't really see it as big of an issue as in the NFL where the starters are the starters and the guys behind them don't really get reps or get in there. they all get rotated in, so they all be
I'm
pretty.
just wondering, do you rotate King in more than you have the last couple of weeks? Because he's been in, but he's not,
Well, I feel like he played more in the second half than he did the first half because I didn't even I thought that Jordan was hurt because I saw how much they had him in there, but it was just that they decided to switch it up. So I feel like that was his warming back up because he's tied for the league in rushing TDs even in the limited time that he's been there at quarterback. And when he has had to throw the ball, he's been effective. So he's a very interesting dual threat.
That's kind of a good change of pace quarterback in the second half, right? When the team's defense is a little bit more gassed and you're going to run it a little bit more, bring out the running quarterback a little bit more. It's kind of switch up.
Well, you also got to look at it. Jordan's leading the league at rushing at the quarterback. King just has the touchdowns. So they both are effective. You got the top running back in the league, which Champ was talking about, that they held down the running game. But when you have the top rushing attack, they're going to drop 8 in the box, sometimes 9, and dare you to run. So the good thing is, like you said, we've seen Lucky Jackson take some steps, take some strides consistently, catching touchdowns. I think it was 4 games in a row. What's the other guy's name? Blair. He's their deep play threat. He gets loose and causes problem for the defense. And they're going to be a hard team to stop with that running threat if they drop it 8 in the box, 9 in the box, and you still have these receivers on the outside making plays and breaking things wide open. That's going to be very frustrating for a team in the playoffs knowing it's one and done.
Carol, you just mentioned, it's funny you mentioned that because even the announcers pointed that out, that the defenders were such a good running team that the defense was mostly playing 8 in the box, which is why the passing game was so effective, because they were playing 8, 9 in the box, expecting them to use Smith and use the other running back or see the threat from Teamu or from Derek King. And that's what made the passing attack so much more potent, was because of the fact that they were playing a lot of man-on-man matchups and the receivers were actually, making plays for the quarterback.
Yeah, you can go back to the RG3 days with the Commanders when, that zone read was popping. You had that linebacker has to, pay attention to, even when it's not a zone read play, he still has to kill on that quarterback because that option is still there. So that split second that he has to sit there and identify where the ball is, it gives the wide receiver. That's why that quick slant to Pierre Garçon was so deadly back in the day, that it couldn't be stopped because the threat of the quarterback makes that linebacker have to take that step up and read to see where the ball is at, to see what's going on before he could drop back in coverage. And that second is what gives that window for the slant and that 10 yards every time, first down. So it's a combination and it's hard to stop. And if they're good at it and you can't stop it, it's going to be a long day for the defense.
Yeah. Champ, do you see it the same way? Do you want to see some of the lower depth chart players see an earlier, see them earlier in this game?
I kind of feel like, they got to do what they have. The defenders need to do what they have to do because, again, it's not like the NFL playoffs where it's two, maybe 3 games before the big championship. It's 1 game and then the big championship. So they have to be very smart with their strategy. Yes, they want to protect players, hope and don't get them hurt when it comes down to the division game, the division championship game, or going into the division game. But I feel like they also want to have that momentum going into that game, especially wondering if they're going to play either Seattle or St. Louis, 2 teams who they're very familiar with, right? And so they got to be very, very cognizant of having that momentum and being ready for that game because they're familiar with both of those teams, but they don't want to come in and have their number ones be cold. But at the same time, you don't want your number ones to get hurt and then they don't play this game and you have those behind them that have not really played in a high pressure game like this be in that situation. So it's really a hard balance, but I think Coach Barlow will know what to do here. He's got a good coaching staff. I think they'll figure it out and they'll make the right choice when it comes down to this final game.
It's interesting that we only played the Guardians once. Right, I thought you played every team in your division twice because we played the other 2 teams twice. But I guess that's just how it shapes out to make 10 games. But I just thought that was interesting because, like in most sports, you play everybody in your division the same number of times or similar. So I was kind of surprised that I guess we never played the Guardians here in DC. But yeah, it's been an interesting season, up and down. It's been really fun to watch a more complete XFL season. It was a bummer when the other ones started off so well, but we didn't get to see it continue because of COVID. But yeah, it's gonna be some interesting matchups these last week. Again, the semifinal game. So the game at the Roughnecks will be the Saturday at. Oh, did they change it? That's interesting. We were gonna have the Saturday game before, right?
I couldn't remember.
And now it says we're on the Sunday game.
Well, I mean, listen, we're the lone team, and we're the one team in the whole league that has the one loss. So I would expect us to have the spotlight game on ESPN on Sunday.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
true.
you're right.
No, because you were right. You're right. We did have the Saturday game originally, but because of the fact that we're the best team pretty much in the XFL, why not give us a Sunday game, the spotlight game, to close out the weekend?
Yeah, that's interesting. It does potentially change things. I mean, we were talking about going to a Saturday night game, but in some ways, that could be more fun to go to a Sunday 3:00 game. I wouldn't necessarily hate that either. So, just it's different than was originally posted by the XFL. I'm just seeing this now on ESPN, and ESPN is the official partner of the XFL. So I assume that on their app that they would be right. But
yeah, that's the last game of the season. Yeah, they're away anyway, so who cares?
No, I'm talking about the finals.
Are you talking about the game that they're hosting? Or you mean the final game?
Yeah, I'm talking about the final game, the hosting game.
Oh, okay. So it's supposed to be Sunday now?
Yeah, the North Division Championship game is now Sunday at 3 p.m. in DC on ESPN.
All right, I'll put the word out and see if we could wrangle some tickets in 2 weeks. We didn't already put the bug in the ear and see what we can make happen. You know, it was, like I said, the seats we had this past week were pretty damn good. So we're going to see what it do. See if I can get you guys in there. I have to talk to my lady because it's her connect. So I'm a bargain hard for you guys.
We appreciate that. So anyway, so sort of breaking news that they switched it to Sunday, because I swear we looked a couple of weeks ago and they had that flipped. So it was always going to be the North Division Championship on Saturday and the South on Sunday. But I think that was when they thought the Texas teams would be the best teams, right? Because it's a Texas league. And then they decided, hey, there's this team in D.C. And even The Rock was tweeting about us, saying that, we bring it and we're selling out and, good looks. And so I appreciate that we've gotten the love from The Rock, who's the owner.
People's Champ, baby. People's Champ recognizes the best team in the XFL.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, they got the rowdiest fans, and I was there firsthand. These folks love their football.
Yeah, that's exciting. So then the Roughnecks will play their game on Saturday at 7, then on the 29th. So we'll look ahead to that next week, and we'll know our who we're playing against. So I think that we've covered it all, but Champ, I just wanted to give you any final thoughts you have before we let you get out of here. Any final thoughts going into the final week, or any XFL thoughts in general?
They just need to just press forward. They got the Brahmas, the final regular season game out on the road. They just got to keep doing what they're doing. These teams are now pretty much like locked in on them on the run game. As long as Jordan Ta'amo and De'Aaron King can continue to throw the ball well and be that dual threat, this team will finish the season with just the one loss and really put everybody on notice. But that's what they got to do. They just got to put it together. The Brahmas are 3-6, so that should be a win. But we thought that with Orlando, we saw what happened there. So they got to just put it together. That's all they got to do, just put it together.
Yeah. And I kind of changed my opinion. Before I was like kind of rest everybody and just that. But in talking to you guys, it makes a lot of sense to carry that momentum forward, especially it's not a long playoff, so you don't really need to save yourself in the same way that you have to if it's 4 or 5 weeks or whatever, the NFL is to make it to the championship. The other thing is this is in San Antonio, and I want to remind people the championship game is in San Antonio. So this could be like a walkthrough mentally for them. Understand the arena, understand the field, and play on that field where the championship is going to be. And so, like, if they can mentally walk through that and try to, be the best that they can and say, hey, we're going to come back in a couple of weeks to this spot, and we're going to finish business and really try to gain as much information, because playing at the Alamo Dome, is a different experience than playing at Audi Field. It's a much bigger, space, cavernous. It's a dome. It'll be interesting to see how full it is. It'll definitely be less full for this game than it potentially will be in a couple of weeks if we make it there. But I think that you can, for a lot of sports psychologists, they always talk about visualizing stuff. And I think this could be a huge moment for them to try to help visualize, coming back there and taking care of business. And so I kind of agree with you guys to take this as kind of a dress rehearsal, if you will, for the championship game. So I think that could be important. All right, Champ. Well, let us know real quickly before we let you go what's happening on the No Spots podcast this week.
All right. So this week on No Spots, I will be here on the show to talk about my time at the entertainment and sports arena for New Japan Pro Wrestling's Capital Collision. We may have Sage join us because I was there with him and his lovely lady, and we had an absolute blast for that event. So we'll talk about that, as well as Impact Rebellion, which was on Sunday night, which saw the 2 top championships in Impact be awarded to new champions after they were vacated due to injury. So we'll talk about that, as well as what's going on this week as well in wrestling. So that'll be streaming live on twitch.tv/True No Spots Pod at our regularly scheduled day and time, Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the audio going up the very next day on Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. Make sure you check out the podcast partners button on sportsothp.com for that and all of our previous episodes, as this will be episode 200.
Wow, that's so cool. I just dropped some of your emails. Somebody was nice and gifted me a subscription to you guys.
Yeah, that was my good friend Ice Cold Chica, who came in while I was live reacting to the Rebellion and dropped 10, and you were one of the 10 that got it. So God bless her for doing that.
That's awesome. So I always love the love to be shared to DC's People's Champ and also to Sith as well. So I appreciate both of you guys for continuing on this True Radio Network with us. And congratulations on 200 episodes. And we'll talk to you next week about the XFL and all sorts of stuff. And Champ, I appreciate you always for modeling and being a part of the podcast team. I hope that you have a fantastic week. I'm happy that you got to go to some live wrestling. I hope that it was a great one, and people should tune in to hear your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun. But y'all have a great night. Carol's always great to see you, my brother. No Kigeno. Sayonara.
All right, brother. I'll let you later on, man. Appreciate it as always.
All right. So we're going to switch to some baseball talk. Basketball one. And just so people know, scoring update, the Stars game is being played against the Wild. Right now, the Wild are up 1-0 at the end of the first period in that. I'm going to go to the restroom real quick, refill my water. But, Carol, break down the last week for the Nats, and I'll be right back.
All right, will do. It was a 2-4 week for the Nationals. Still trying to find their way. A lot of young bats, a lot of pitching they're trying to figure out. Bullpen hasn't been as strong, but we knew that coming into the season. Last week they had 2 series, one against the Los Angeles Angels and our good friend Tony Two Bags. And the funny thing was, the one game that they won was the game that he didn't play, which was the first game of the series. They lost that series 1-2. Then they came back home to face the Cleveland Guardians and unfortunately lost 2 out of 3 to them also, hence the 2-4 record. It's just frustrating sometimes watching the team when you know they can do better and play, hoping they can do better and play better, but then they find a way, or the other team find a way to take advantage of a mistake that they've made or bad pitching or whatever the case may be. And unfortunately, that's how this season has played out so far for the Nats. And I'm going to try to share to some Nats groups while I'm talking, because that's what we do. And hopefully there are some Nationals fans out there still riding with this team. You know, it was only 4 short years ago, won the World Series. But yet some folks want to, throw this team under the bus ASAP. It takes time, took them a while to win. We endured the 100-loss seasons and such. Now we got to go back to the rebuilding phase, unfortunately. All right. I shared some of the groups. I'll share some later on. Started out the series with a 6-4 win over the Angels. They had 14 hits that game, which was a season high. Patrick Corbin earned the first victory of the season, put him at 1-2. He went 5 innings, giving up 7 hits, 4 runs with 3 strikeouts and 3 walks. Tucker Davidson took the loss for the Angels. That dropped him to 0-1. He went 3 innings, giving up 4 hits, 2 runs with 3 strikeouts and no walks. And Finnegan earned the second save of the season for the Nats. He went 1 inning, giving up no hits, no runs with 1 strikeout and no walks. Top of the second, C.J. Abrams had a RBI single, making it 2-1. The top of the fourth, Lane Thomas had an RBI single, scoring 1, making it 3-3. I mean, 3-3. Then I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his first name. Candelero had a 2-run RBI single, making it 5-3. No, my math is off. Top of the fifth, Abrams had a fielder's choice RBI. At the top of the seventh, Robles had a fielder's choice RBI. I couldn't even read my hand right, which made it a 6-4 score. Nationals win. Second game was a 2-0 shutout loss. Ohtani put together a strong outing, going 7 innings, giving up 1 hit, no runs with 6 strikeouts and 5 walks. That put him at 2-0. Josiah Gray dropped to 0-3. Unfortunately, he can't get any run support to start the season. He's went 5 2/3, giving up 4 hits, 2 runs with 3 strikeouts and 2 walks. And Carlos Estevez earned the save. That was his first of the season, going 1 inning with no hits, no walks, strikeouts. No hits, no runs, no strikeouts with 1 walk. And to wrap up the series, it was a 3-2 loss by the Nats. They were up 2-1 going into the fourth. After the top of the fourth, but unfortunately couldn't get any more runs. Bullpen let them down in the bottom of the sixth and gave up the lead run to make it 3-2. And unfortunately, the Nats couldn't come back from that. Winning pitcher Matt Moore put him at 1-0. He went 1 inning, give it up no runs, hits, strikeouts, or walks. Mason Thomas took the loss, drops him to 0-1. He went 1 2/3, giving up 3 hits, 1 run, 1 strikeout, and 1 walk. And Jose Cadilla earned his second save. He went 1 inning, giving up no hits, no runs, and 1 strikeout, and no walks. The top of the fourth, Joey Meneses had an RBI single. And I cannot read my hand right, and I wrote that too fast. Oh, Garcia. Jeez, I keep on forgetting about Luis Garcia. Luis Garcia had a ground out RBI to make it 2-0 in the top of the fourth, and the Angels scored in the bottom of the fourth and scored again in the 6-2. Take the lead and win the game, and winning the series 2-1. Then after that, the Nats came home to face the Cleveland Guardians. First game was a 4-3 loss. Walks by the bullpen contributed to the loss. There, I believe, were 6 walks in the game, and that's what kind of changed the momentum of the game and gave Cleveland the lead. And unfortunately, the Nats weren't able to get any run support to combat that 1 run that got walked. That was unearned by the pitcher because it was walked in. Carl Edwards took the loss. That drops him to 0-1. 1 1/3, giving up 1 hit, 1 run. The run wasn't earned because, like I said, it was an inherited runner from the previous pitcher. 1 strikeout, and he had 2 walks also. Trevor Stephan got the win for Cleveland, puts him at 1-0. He went 1 inning, giving up no runs, no strikeouts with a walk. And Emmanuel Claus, or Clays, I don't know, doesn't look like Claus, but it's spelled that way. With his 4th save, he went 1 inning, giving him 1 hit, no runs, 1 strikeout, and no walks. Bottom of the 4th, Luis Garcia had a solo home run, making it 1-0, and Alex Call had a 2-run RBI single, making it 3-0. But like I said, unfortunately, bullpen gave up some walks and gave up some hits and some runs for an answer, to be exact, to make it a 4-3 loss for the Nats. Second game was a 6-4 loss. The Nats had a 3-0 lead after the first. It was tied up at 3-3 in the fourth, and unfortunately, the Nats couldn't get any muster enough offense to counter the Cleveland. Cleveland took the lead in the fifth, 5-3, and held on to win 6-4. Zach Plesac earned his first victory of the season, putting him at 1-0. He went 5 innings, giving up 7 hits, 4 runs. 2 of those earned with 1 strikeout and no walks. Chad Kuhl earned the loss, drops him to 0-1. He went 4 2/3, getting up 7 hits, 5 runs, 2 strikeouts, and 3 walks. And Emmanuel Claus earned his 5th save, going 1 inning with no hits, no runs, no strikeouts, or walks. Bottom of the first, Joey Meneses had an RBI single, making it 1-0. Candelero, I'm not even gonna try to do his first name. I was gonna try, but I thought about it and said no. He had an RBI double, making it 2-0. Keibert Ruiz had an RBI single, making it 3-0. That was all in the bottom of the first, as I mentioned. In the bottom of the fourth, Ruiz had an RBI double, which made it 5-4 Cleveland, and they tacked on another run, I believe, in the eighth to make it a 6-4 loss for the Nationals. And yesterday, they were able to salvage 1 game out of the 3 and win in kind of dramatic fashion, 7-6. It was a review call in the 8th inning when the game was 6-5 with the Nats trying to come back that was awarded to the Nats after it was a blocking the plate play where the runner clearly would have been safe if the catcher didn't block the plate, and they had to review it. They did, got the run to tie the game at 6-all, and then got the go-ahead run to make it a 7-6 game to win the game for the Nationals. Mason Thompson earned his first victory, puts him at 1-1. He went 1 inning, giving up 1 hit, no runs, strikeouts, or walks. Sandin took the loss for Cleveland. That dropped him to 1-1. He went 2/3 of an inning, giving up 1 hit, 2 runs, no strikeouts, and 1 walk. And Kyle Finnegan earned his 3rd save of the season, going 1 inning with 1 hit, no runs, 1 strikeout, and no walks. And to recap the scoring, had to use 2 pages this week. Bottom of the first, Candelero had an RBI single, making it 1-0. Bottom of the second, Lane Thomas had an RBI double, making it 2-0. Bottom of the third, Candelero had a solo home run, making it 4-3. Bottom of the seventh, Garcia had a 2-run home run after Candelero had another good hit to get on base. I watched that at bat. I think it was like an 18 pitch at bat where he scrapped and finally got the right pitch, got on base, and Luis Garcia hit a 2-run home run, making it a 6-5 game. As I mentioned, Lane Thomas had the sacrifice fly that was reviewed, that was awarded to the Nats for the catcher was blocking the plate, which made it 6-6. And right after that, Joey Meneses had an RBI single, making it 7-6 and keeping the lead for the Nats and at least winning 1 out of 3 versus this team. They are now currently sit 5-11. They have interleague play this week where they have Baltimore Orioles at home Tuesday and Wednesday. Both are 7:05 starts. And then they go to Minnesota for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday matchup. Friday is an 8:10 start. Saturday and Sunday is a 2:10 p.m. start. So hopefully the Nats can get some winning ways and maybe at least go 500 this week instead of under 500 and try to get closer with these 6 games under 500 they starting the season out right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the battle of the Beltway, as they say. I think Tim is going to a game. I know that he wanted to. Those are always interesting matchups. Baltimore's doing at least better than DC is, at least in the early part of the season. They are 9-7. The Nats are 5-11 right now. So it should be an interesting week for the Nationals, playing the 2 games against Baltimore and then the 3 games against Minnesota. So we'll have a bunch that we'll break down next week. I know that the schedule and who's going to be on and off is sort of up in the air as these next couple of weeks, as Carol is making shifts and stuff like that. So we'll definitely go over the scores, whether or not we'll go as in depth as Carol just did. We'll just sort of see who can be on. But I appreciate, Carol, you breaking it down for us, especially. I missed a lot of those games, covering a lot of different things in the last week. Yeah, it's an interesting time winding down the season, especially not having the Wizards or the Capitals in the playoffs this year. It's a little bit strange, but I am excited that we get to talk XFL and a little bit of the Nats. Hopefully, they're able to turn it around and get some players in there and make some moves. But it's been a rough start for sure for the Nats, and I am happy that they were able to salvage 2 wins, but we really wanted them to salvage 4 or find a way to come up with 4 out of these out of these 6. So it's a little bit of a disappointing week for sure. So we'll see if we can do a little bit better against Baltimore and Minnesota.
And everything could change with Strasburg. If he gets healthy and come back to the lineup, that's one stronger pitcher that we need, because that's been the issue. Inconsistent pitching, as always. Pitching is key in baseball, and if we can get him back healthy and at least pitching in the rotation, that's going to help the team in numerous ways.
For sure. All right. Well, any final thoughts on the Nats before we sort of switch and talk? Bring in Arun.
No, it's pretty much just going to wait and see. And a quick segue for the basketball talk. The first playoff matchup of the night already is concluded. The 76ers beat the Nets 96-84. And I just saw the Kings-Warriors game went to timeout. The Warriors were up by a few, but it looks like the Kings went on the run. Now they're up 30-27, and Curtis took a timeout. Just a quick segue before y'all go in there. I was watching the first game, and I see that the Kings are a 3 seed and the Warriors are a 6 seed. But the fact that it took all that will for them to beat them the first game, I still got faith in my Warriors that they're going to pull this out.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see. So, well, Arun, you can feel free to jump on. I don't know. Do I have the Wizards logo? I don't know if I have a general. It's been a while. Let's see. I had an NBA logo at one point for the NBA playoffs, but done so many different things over the years. But let me see real quick if I can grab a NBA logo. That's us. But Arun, while I'm doing that, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, not doing bad.
That's a small logo. And it ended up being really huge. We're just gonna put up the Wizards logo. I don't think I care enough. All right. We're just gonna put up the Wizards logo. People know what we're talking about, the NBA playoffs, because the Wizards didn't make the playoffs. So it's been an interesting matchup. Let me see if I can share my screen, if that will work. Here, switch. Yeah. Looks like Carol is still with us and fix it on his end.
I'm here. I just turned my camera off.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna have to probably set your hit the escape button or whatever. Let me. All right, I think we're live now. We've got all of my graphics up. So we're gonna run through the games pretty quickly. I know Arun saw all of them. I'll let him give a couple of quick thoughts on it. I'm not gonna go through the entire scoring. Just gonna go through the score and when it happened and get Arun's quick thoughts. So it will rapid fire through these. All right, so Arun, the first game in the play-in tournament was between the Hawks and the Heat. The Hawks ended up winning that game 116-105, even though it was in Miami. They were able to take that first playoff spot and clinch that 7th seed on Tuesday. What were some of your thoughts on that game?
Kyle Lowry had a huge game, but Miami kind of looked hungover. I don't know. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo didn't really have good games, and the Hawks were able to knock down threes and upset the Heat for a road win.
All right, then the next game, also on Tuesday the 11th. This was an overtime game where the Lakers were able to beat the Timberwolves in overtime, 108-102. What were some of your thoughts on this one?
Rudy Gobert was suspended, and the Timberwolves had a big lead going into the fourth quarter. But the Lakers, I believe, they held the Timberwolves to like 12 points, and the Timberwolves got lucky with kind of a bit lucky with an Anthony Davis foul, with to tie the game that sent the game into overtime. Mike Conley hit all 3 free throws, but the Lakers continued and they dominated in the OT. Rui had a big 3, and the Lakers were able to pull out the win, even though they overcame a big deficit.
Yeah. So LeBron had 30 and Anthony Davis had 24 in that game, and they both had double digits in rebounds as well. The next game was on the next night, which is Wednesday, April 12th. So this is a battle of the lower seeds, and where the winner would move on to play the losers of those previous games, and the loser is out. So in these Wednesday games, you got the Bulls going to Toronto and getting a big win and knocking Toronto out. What were some of your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, the Raptors had a big lead, but they gave it up. And DeMar DeRozan, he was traded from the Raptors to the Spurs, and he kind of got a bit of revenge against the Spurs. And what went viral was his daughter shrieking during the Raptors free throws. They missed half of their free throws. Not cool for Toronto, sent death threats to DeMar DeRozan's daughter, but she was probably a big reason for maybe the Raptors missing their free throws, and the Bulls were able to overcome a big deficit and win the game.
Yeah, that's crazy. And yeah, she went viral, but then a lot of, during the game, there was a lot of positive things originally talked about, but then it kind of went negative, and it was just kind of interesting, a viral moment. And then he chose to not bring her to the second game because she had her own basketball game, and he didn't want to be a distraction, which, interesting knowing the results of that game now. But we'll get into that second game in a second. But let's talk about the last one of these elimination games, which was the Thunder going into New Orleans and getting a big victory. It's interesting that both of the road teams won these matchups, kind of speaking to the fact that you just need to get into that playoffs to be able to potentially win in to get into the next part of the round. It was a really high-scoring game. This did not go to overtime, but Oklahoma scored 123 points to 118 for New Orleans. What were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, another game. The Pelicans had a lead at halftime, but then Oklahoma City with Shake Gilgeous-Alexander, he finally turned it up. Dort had a big game. CJ McCollum for the Pelicans wasn't that good. Brandon Ingram was. Zion was obviously out. People are upset that he's doing warm-up dunks, but I don't think he's healthy, and it's probably better that he doesn't risk a real serious injury, given that he hasn't played for a while. But definitely understandable why they're upset, because I think the Pelicans may have made like deep playoff run with Zion, but just seems like the Thunder were young and better and able to take advantage of the Pelicans.
Right. All right. So going back here to the last part of these 3 set of games in the play-in tournament. So this is the losers of the first game versus the winners of the second game. So in this one, both of the teams that were the losers of the initial games took those couple of days rest. Remember, they had played on Tuesday and then played on Friday, and it seemed to serve them well. I know that the other teams had a day of rest. They didn't have to play Thursday, but it seemed like the legs were very helpful, especially in that Timberwolves game, scoring 120 and only allowing 95. But let's talk about this Bulls Heat game first. It was pretty close, but you could kind of tell that the Heat took advantage early. The Bulls made a game of it, but then the Heat pulled away at the end. What are some of your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Jimmy Butler finally came awake. I think maybe if they had lost this game, maybe that kicked up the sense of urgency for Miami, like 30-plus points. And Max Strus with the 31-point plus game. Hero and Bam were not really good, only 20 points combined for, I believe, 2 of the 3 highest paid players. But the Heat were able to just get enough done against the Bulls. I think the Bulls were winning at some point in the early first half, but then Miami just took control, and I think the home court, especially in the fourth quarter, and the Heat outscored them by 12. They actually were down in the fourth quarter by a point, so props to the Heat for, I think, would have been pretty disastrous for them to lose both playing games and miss the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure, because they were starting as the 7 seed, so can you imagine? So that would have definitely been big. Let's talk about that Timberwolves Thunder game, where it was very close early on. Timberwolves took a decent sized lead going into halftime, extended it in the third, and extended it in the fourth. For a pretty sizable victory. In the end, they had a lot of double-digit scorers in this one. What were some of your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, the Thunder, they lost Chet Holmgren. I think they're only really big man in this series, and Gort had 17 points, but that wasn't enough. And I think Shea got hit in the face at some point. He kind of wasn't the same after that, and I think the size of the Timberwolves, even though it hasn't helped them be that much better overall, like Gobert and Towns' size kind of overwhelmed the OKC's lack of size, and they out-rebounded them, and they won by 25 points.
Yep. All right, so now we got into the real playoffs. So the first game that happened was the 76ers beat the Nets 121-101. That was on Saturday. What were your thoughts on game one in that series?
It was a close game at halftime, but the Sixers' three-point shooting was too much. Mikal Bridges had a good game, but it wasn't really close, and the Sixers just killed them, kind of like they did tonight as well.
Yeah, the Celtics beat the Hawks 112-99 to continue the dominance of the home teams.
Yeah, the Celtics were up by I believe 30 points, and then the Hawks kind of made it close in the fourth quarter, but mostly with Trae Young out, and it's kind of a bad matchup for him. And the Celtics wings Tatum and Brown dominated, and they were able to win.
Next, you got the Knicks playing the Cavaliers. It's the first time that a road team got a win here. Some good play from the Knicks, who started off strong, and they kind of held on throughout. The Cavaliers made a game of it at the end there, outscored them in the fourth quarter, but the Knicks were able to hold on for that 4-point victory. What were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, two Villanova players were key. Actually, in this game, two of the three best players for the Knicks. Jalen Brunson, he was in foul trouble the first half, but I believe he had 18 to 20 points in the second half. And Josh Hart, he was a player in the first half, and I think he was like 8 of 12 or something ridiculous. And although he's going to be out for game two with an ankle injury, the Knicks battled them on the boards. Being the slight underdogs, they were able to pull out the win. And I guess we're getting to a lot in upcoming games where the road teams are going to start winning some games.
Yeah. All right. The next matchup, the Kings beat the Warriors. This was a close one. They beat them 126-123 in a really high-scoring affair, with both teams scoring above 25 points in every quarter, including over 30 in many of those quarters. What were your thoughts on this high-scoring game?
Yeah, I think Fox and Malik Monk became the first teammates from college and doing in the pros to have 30-plus points each since Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler of the Houston Rockets. Warriors did get Wiggins back after a 2-month absence. He looked pretty solid. Missed a couple key threes late in the game, and Curry missed three to potentially, I think it was to tie the game. It was like kind of a floater three. He kind of had a really good look, but he missed. This is going to be a really good series.
Yeah, and so that series, as you can see it above us in the live scoreboard right now, is very close as well. I don't have the game on live, but the Google says it's 40-31 that the Kings are leading the Warriors, but I'm sure that score is slightly outdated. But either way, it's going to be a great series between these two teams. Let's get into the next one, which was the Lakers and the Grizzlies. Another road team getting the victory in the Lakers here. The Lakers have come on really strong in the second half of the season, winning the play-in one. They had sort of surged up the standings. If people don't remember, early on the season. They were on the outside looking in before the trade deadline, but they made some decent moves and they were able to make a good run out of it. They had a really good first quarter. Really had a dominant second quarter, but then the Lakers turned around and dominated the third and fourth. What were some of your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, the lack of size for the Grizzlies was showing. Steven Adams and Brandon Clark, actually Rui Hachimura's teammate, and Rui went off in this game. He had 29 points, so I think he had like 4 or 5 threes in the second half, and actually outscored LeBron James. And Austin Reeves also with the big game. He actually also outscored LeBron James with 23 points, the undrafted player from last year. And just too much size. John Morant also got injured. It was a 103 to 102, and then the Lakers closed out a 16-0 run or something ridiculous, and that was the game. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe if Ja comes back, they could compete, but the Lakers definitely look like the favorites now.
Which is interesting, since they're the lower seeded team. But kind of the team that I'm rooting for at this point, just because I don't have a whole lot of teams that I like. I wouldn't mind the Knicks doing well. Coming out of the East, I know I have a lot of friends that are Knicks fans. It's been a while since they've done well. So those are kind of the teams that I'm looking to a little bit. The next game is the Heat versus the Bucks. This was kind of a surprising one to me. The Heat, who had been struggling so much in the play-in tournament and couldn't get things done, really kind of dominated this Bucks team. They started off strong, scored 33 in the first, 35 in the second, 34 in the third, and then had their lowest scoring one, but still 28 points in the fourth. What were your thoughts on this surprising, at least in my mind, win for the Heat over the Bucks?
Yeah, the big story coming out of this game is Giannis Antetokounmpo getting an injury, back contusion. He came back in the first half, but then he didn't return in the second half at all. So Milwaukee, yeah, they were still dominating the first half, but at least the Bucks were able to kind of keep it close, and they might be without Giannis. Who knows? If they're out without him for the rest of the series, Miami may become the favorites. But if Giannis comes back, then obviously the Bucks may go back to being the favorites to coming out of the East, just to show that anything can happen in the playoffs. Jimmy Butler was great. Kevin Love, I don't know, he had like 4 threes. It was ridiculous, and good game by the Heat, and it's weird that they won by double digits after struggling in the play-in, like you just mentioned.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Kevin Love finally finding a spot that's, better for him, I think, in this team. I just feel like he just never seemed to really fit in with the Cavaliers in the way that was hoped for by them, I think. I don't know. I just think he needed to change the scenery big time. And so I'm happy to see that he was able to do that and was able to take advantage of.
Oh yeah, and just one more thing I forgot to mention, Tyler Hero for the Heat, he's actually out for the rest of the series, so it's gonna be kind of weird thing, injuries hitting both teams, so definitely.
And I missed it. What happened to Giannis in this game?
He went and drove for a layup, and I think somebody took a charge. I forget who it was, and he landed on his back and had a back contusion. He came back for a couple minutes, kind of looked okay, but then didn't return in the second half at all. And Tyler Hero injured his hand, his wrist, just diving, falling down on the ground. And so Miami, if they win this series, they're probably, I don't see them getting much further without Hero. Although, who knows? They did take the Celtics 7 games last year, but I don't think. It's pretty bad for both teams to have injuries like that.
Yeah, interesting. All right, so that's the Heat Bucks game, and then the Clippers Suns game. So this is another road team, and the Clippers, in a big victory. They kind of struggled down the stretch a little bit in this season. The Clippers had been doing better earlier on in the season. They made a couple of trades. But at the very end of the season, they kind of righted the ship a little bit. But I was still surprised to see this win over the Suns. What were some of your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think the first couple minutes watching this game, I thought the Clippers looked like they were more cohesive than the Suns, because I think even though the Suns are 8-0 since they've acquired Kevin Durant, it's different playing in the playoffs, and I think the Clippers have been together a bit longer. Russell Westbrook was 3 of 19 from the field, but he had a really big impact defensively and actually hit 2 free throws to really clinched the game for the Clippers, and Kawhi Leonard with 38 points was the player of the game. I think the Suns need to go more to Durant, and Ayton kind of struggled, and Chris Paul, I think he had like 11 rebounds, but he didn't really look like himself. Age is kind of showing. Maybe Westbrook was giving him problems, and Devin Booker, 26 is pretty good for most players, but he should probably have more than that, especially if like Russell Westbrook is guarding him.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's Westbrook versus Chris Paul. That's such an interesting.
Yeah, Westbrook versus Chris Paul and Kevin Durant. So,
yeah,
and kind of crazy.
The whole thing is crazy in the NBA. But definitely an interesting series to check out and to watch more of. All right, so then, sorry, we're
Timberwolves Nuggets. Kind of a blowout. Not much to really talk about. Just I think the Timberwolves are really. The Nuggets are really bad matchup for the Timberwolves, given that neither of the bigs can really guard Jokic, and just the Timberwolves had a couple injuries. One guy punched the wall and broke his hand, and Naz Reid is out for the season, so their lack of depth showed up. And Kyle Anderson actually almost got into a fight with another guy in the Nuggets who didn't really even react, which is kind of funny. But I think this is might be the only series. Maybe Hawks Celtics, that'll be a sweep, but this is also looking like the Nuggets will sweep the Timberwolves.
All right, and then the Nets play the 76ers tonight. The 76ers kind of dominated a little bit, and they took a 2-0 series in that. What are your thoughts on today's game?
Yeah, the Nets kind of surprised me in the first half because they had a lead in the first half, but I think the 76ers made some adjustments. Tobias Harris got a lot of baskets at the rim. Relatively low-scoring game, 96-84. The Nets they had 50 points at halftime, only 34 points in the second half, and that's not going to get it done. And Spencer Dinwiddie was pretty awful. He's been making some weird comments about the Wizards recently, but not looking good for him these last two games. He called himself a Drew Holiday kind of player. That's definitely not showing up in these first two games. And even though Mikal Bridges, he was drafted by the Sixers, traded on draft night, and his mom actually worked for the 76ers. He's having a good series, as well as Cam Johnson tonight, but the Nets lack of more help.
Right. And then the last game is the Kings are now pulling away a little bit from the Warriors here in the second quarter. Right now, the scoreboard here says 47-38 with the Kings in the lead. But I think this will be still an interesting series. I wouldn't be surprised if the Warriors win some of those home games and come back and make this a series. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think the Warriors defense was really doing well in the first quarter. I think at one point they had held them to 17 points. That I think right now the Kings have gotten on fire. I think with Steph Curry on the bench for whatever the reason, maybe it's Jordan Poole playing defense, or I don't know, the Kings were able to get on a run. Malik Monk really looking good. And I think the Warriors, they'll probably come back to make this game close, but I don't think they want to be down 2-0. Wouldn't rule them out of the series, but it would be ideal for them to try to gain some confidence and win on the road, because it'll be kind of tough for them to win all their games in Golden State. So they definitely want to try to get a win here.
Right. All right. Well, just real quickly, the Hawks Celtics series will continue tomorrow at 7. The Knicks Cavaliers will continue at 7:30. The Clippers Suns will continue tomorrow at 10. The Lakers Grizzlies will be on Wednesday at 7:30. The Heat versus the Bucks will be at 9 on Wednesday, and then at 10 on Wednesday the Timberwolves play the Nuggets, and then Thursday we got Sixers versus Nets at 7:30. The night game at 10 o'clock will be Kings Warriors. And then 10:30, the Suns will play the Clippers. And then Friday, the Celtics will play at the Hawks. That'll be a 7 o'clock game. Also on Friday, the 8:30 is the Cavaliers Knicks. And the 9:30 is the Nuggets Timberwolves. And then, the rest of the games will be on Saturday. The Sixers play the Nets again in their game 4. The Suns will play the Clippers on Saturday at 3:30. That'll be their game 4. The game 3 for the Bucks and the Heat will be at Saturday at 7:30, and then the game 3 for the Grizzlies and the Lakers will be at 10. And then the last ones of the weekend will be on Sunday. The 1:00 game is the Cavaliers Knicks. The Sunday at 3:30 will be the Kings Warriors. The Celtics play the Hawks at 7 on Sunday, and then the Nuggets play the Timberwolves, the last game of the weekend, at 9:30. So next week, I don't know if we'll go through all the games. We'll probably just quickly go through each of the series to say where they're at, and give people a preview of what's to come in that one. But thank you, Arun, for helping us break down the series so far, the play-in tournament. I really appreciate all of that. Any final thoughts, Arun, before we let you go?
I just saw that Shaq got served in the FTX lawsuit, so some weird NBA news. But I guess maybe, I don't know, they're trying to associate all the people that endorsed FTX in some class action lawsuits. So kind of interesting that he's potentially in court because of that. But other than that, just looking for late playoff series, and probably going to try to catch the Defenders this weekend as well.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you, Arun. Appreciate it as always. Carol, I think we'll stop the audio feed of this podcast. So I'll let you do your outro, and then I'll stop that, and then you could jump off of the Zoom and do whatever post you want to do on your end for that. But let everyone know any final thoughts and wrap up. And then next week we'll definitely have more Defenders, Nats, and we'll do more abbreviated NHL and NBA playoff updates as well.
Yeah, it's like I say, going through transition, things are changing. You will see me more things about like I say, just stay tuned. Things are moving around, things are changing, locations changing, the lab is changing, the whole platform is going to be changing. So just stay tuned. Season 8, I hopefully have the video for the new season up and running next week. I just downloaded it to my phone so I can edit the video now. So I should have it uploaded by next week for next episode. I should be back around. I will be taking, just to give you a little nugget of what I got going on, I will be taking my life insurance test next week to be licensed in Maryland and Virginia. So you will be seeing, I always promote my business ventures when I was in car sales and HVAC sales. Now I'm going into life insurance sales and securities and financial planning, which is something we all could use, especially folks in my community. So be on the lookout. There are going to be some new pages coming out, new videos coming out, talking insurance, talking health insurance, life insurance, and financial planning for, a lot of folks on my page that, might be going through financial difficulty. So I've gone through some and luckily been able to rebound, but everybody isn't that lucky. So, stay tuned. You'll see some things changing, coming out with my official, once I get my license. That'll be next week. Once it's official, you'll see the post and everything. But just putting that nugget out there, something y'all be on the lookout for. And Sports OTHP in the community segment will be coming to fruition soon. So, stay tuned for so much more. Robbie got his things going on Twitch and, growing his nation over there. I have some things I'm about to start growing and, be on the lookout. I'm also opening up my social media consulting business. I have a client that I meet with on Wednesday. For anybody that's tuned in that's looking to, help add to their social media presence or videos or anything, I'm working up on the price list and have a meeting on Wednesday with my first client. Close that deal, set things up, keep you posted, see how that goes. And if you like what you see, feel free to hit me up. We go over it and help boost your views, your content, your pages, whatever you need to do. That's what we're here for. We've been doing it for a while. We know what we're doing. Might not have a degree in it, but damn it, I'm pretty good at what I do.
Sounds good. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to end the audio podcast and say that we're DC Sports Without the Politics, Sports on the Hill podcast, and we'll be back with more stuff next week. If you want to stay tuned to Carol's feed, he'll have his whatever outro that he wants, and I will be picking a raid target on mine. But I'm going to end our audio podcast there.
Recording stopped.
I'm not doing nothing, Robbie. I am watching a little bit of this basketball, and I'm going to bed. It's been a long day. It's going to be a longer day tomorrow. It's going to be a long week. So I'm not playing no videos. I'm not doing anything. I'm just signing off. Appreciate y'all checking us out. As he said, DC Sports Without the Politics. It's not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto. It's what we do. CP3, live from the Almost Lab. Be back at you next week or maybe sometime during the week. You never know. But stay tuned. And I'm out.